Hi everybody. It has been a while since I have done an Instagram live. I think it's been a while since I've done much on social media. But today I am revisiting actually. So most of you will know my last live video was at the beginning of October when I let the world know that I was discontinuing my Olympic bid. And I wrote my blog post, so if you're interested in hearing about what went into that decision, you are very welcome to go and read my blog post about it. But what I wanted to share today is actually, it's something that I wrote 2 weeks after I decided to discontinue the bid. And so this is my lessons from the first 2 weeks. It's now been almost 2 months, so I'm a little bit late on this, but I'm going to share it anyway because I wrote it and then I wanted to think on it a bit before I shared it. So lessons from the first 2 weeks after making public that I was not continuing my Olympic bid. First one is people rock. Any fear that I had that I was going to be criticized or that people were not going to support me in making the decision to stop, any criticism I thought that I might get around giving up or quitting or not seeing things through to the end, none of that materialized. And the messages of support that I received then at the time and the messages of support I've received since have been overwhelmingly positive. And so everybody out there who gave me those messages of support, thank you so much. You made this process much, much easier. So lesson number 1, people rock. Lesson number 2, it's called That Face. I actually did not tell people, generally speaking, and the world until about a week after I had made the decision. And this was in person, telling people in person, because I didn't want the sympathy face. And I think everybody knows that face. It's when you tell somebody something and they're sorry and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. And it is really genuine and there's nothing wrong with that face, but I could not handle the face. So it took me quite a while to actually tell people in person about my decision because I couldn't handle that face. My third lesson is around body image. It's amazing to me to observe how quickly I perceive a decline in my body, my muscle tone, my muscle definition, how quick and easy it is for me to see like extra pudge here and there. And I don't actually know if this is true. I don't know how much of this is true. I don't know to what extent it's true because of course everything's coming from my own subjective perspective. But within a couple of weeks of this was lesson from the first 2 weeks. So within the first 2 weeks, I was noticing a decline in my body image. And I didn't necessarily feel negative about it because I felt very strongly that the decision that I'd made was the right one for me, and I still feel that way. I am so much happier now than I have been for a while as a person, and so it's the right decision. And so the body image stuff, it's more about being interested in the observations that I'm making about myself, not that I'm feeling more critical about myself, but just that my body's different. It's not better or worse, other than if you judge by society's criteria. It's just different. But the perception is that it changes very quickly. The fourth lesson, and I only have 6, so don't worry, it's not going to be too long. My fourth lesson is it's never enough. And this is related to climbing, it's related to life, it's related to my job, it's related to my friendships, my relationships. When I was training, even at the height of my training, when I was doing 7 sessions a week and like 25 hours plus of training a week, and working part-time as well and having the rest of my life, I felt like I wasn't doing enough then. And I feel like I'm not doing enough now either. So I think for me, the lesson in this, the gift of growth in this, is that unless you can be happy with where you are now, and unless you can feel like you're doing enough and that you as a person are enough now, it's never going to change. Doesn't matter if you do more, doesn't matter if you do less. It's not about changing externally what's happening or what you're doing. It's about changing your perception of enough, and your motivations for it as well. So for me, my motivations since I've stopped training have been, I want to have more of a systemic impact. So I've been looking for opportunities to do that. And obviously I'm just starting on that trajectory. And so it's going to be years and years before I feel like I'm doing enough. And potentially then this whole gift of growth is about, I potentially won't feel like I'm doing enough then either. So I've got to be content and happy with where I am and what I'm doing now, and not wait for some point in the future. My sixth lesson is when I have been going through this grieving process of finishing this and letting go of this piece of my identity that I have held for the last 3 years, that tears come at little things. So after I made the decision, there wasn't a big release of emotion, and I spoke in my second lesson about that face. So I certainly did not tell anybody, because I didn't want to cry in front of anybody. And if I saw that face, I was going to be crying a lot. But because of that, I didn't cry. And the thing that actually set me off was a silverfish. For those of you who don't know what a silverfish is, it's a little insect that eats material and paper and that sort of thing. Often lives under carpet or in damp spaces where they have food. I saw a silverfish running into my climbing gear, and that was it for me. I just broke down, and that was one of the biggest sessions of tears that I had before I went on my retreat. And I will be writing a blog post about my retreat, my silent retreat that I went on, which was my big space to grieve and process. But yeah, so my fifth lesson, tears will not necessarily come when you want them to, and they will come at the littlest things. And the sixth lesson is the lesson is the toll that it took. The toll that it took on me to be doing what I was doing for the Olympic bid. When I was in it, I was doing it because I was doing it. I was doing it because that's what I wanted to do, and I was doing what needed to be done to get to my goal. Now that I'm not doing it anymore, I am realizing how much energy it took, how much emotional energy it took, how much physical energy it took as well, although that one's more obvious to people. And I think the biggest thing is going to every single session in a week, but also over 3 years, and pushing through pain, pushing through fatigue, pushing through fear and self-doubt. So imagine every single time that you show up for something, sometimes 2 times a day, and having to push through something, having to be so disciplined that you are overcoming one of those things one or more of those things in every session. You have to push through pain or push through, and I don't mean injury pain. Don't push through injury pain. That's a bad idea. But, muscle soreness or tweaks or creaks or, little cricks or whatever. So you're pushing through that every session, or you're pushing through fatigue because you've just done, another session that morning, or fear of whether it's falling, you're doing lead climbing and it's fear of falling, or fear of not achieving your goals, or fear of what other people are going to think of you. And then self-doubt. And am I good enough? Is the biggest one, isn't it? Am I good enough? Are people going to think I'm good enough? Or am I wasting my time with this? All of that. Anyway, so every session you show up and you're pushing through all of these emotional challenges and barriers. And it's been freeing to go to a climbing session and not have to worry about any of that at all. It's been very freeing. So my gifts of growth, in summary, from the lessons from the first 2 weeks after I finished my Olympic bid were people rock, that face, oh, I'm really sorry, body image and how amazingly fast perceptions of the body can change. It's never enough, so feel like you are enough in the moment that you're in, because it's not going to change no matter what you do externally. The tears of grief are going to come at little things and when you least expect them. And the realization for me of the toll that it was taking on me to have to push through something every single session. So thanks very much for joining my gift of growth and my 6 gifts of growth. And yeah, I will be posting a blog soon on my processing through the grief of finishing my Olympic bid. Thanks everybody. Bye.